Lux go, Lux go, Lux go. Oh man, I'm doing amazing today. Let's go. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome, welcome, welcome to the session. My name is Oren Coach Wright. Let me know if you can hear the mic. Everything sounds good. Perfect. Let's go. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. We are locked and loaded. Super excited to be here today. If you enjoyed yesterday's session, you can always go back and rewatch it if you didn't. But yesterday's session was laying the foundation. Okay, we're starting this blueprint series, a 5-day blueprint series. We're going to get into the good stuff in the coming days, but it's very important that we set the foundation. Okay, because some of you, we're going to have people who join us and they're going to say, hey, where do I start? Now we know exactly where to start them. Okay. Now, in this session today, we're going to talk about the DNA of the market. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the DNA of the market. And what the DNA is, okay, just like in the DNA in in a human body, we have our brothers, our sisters, our family members, but we want to know what creates the structure in the market. Okay, we're talking about the higher highs, the higher lows, the lower highs and the lower lows. We want to identify these areas so we can start building that family tree in the market. Okay, so if you know what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen, because if you understand this type of structure, what's going to happen is you're going to start to see. All right, yesterday I identified the uptrend, the downtrend, but also in the uptrend and in the downtrend, you're going to see those higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, and then lower high, pull back, lower low. Okay, you're going to start to see those, and that's also going to help you determine your entry point. So, with that being said, let's go over to the live chart. Okay. I'm going to disappear for a moment, right? Disappear for a moment, and let's get this thing popping. All right. There we go. Showtime. All right. Perfect. All right. All right. Everybody can see my screen. That's what I want to make sure. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So, first thing we're going to be building out is the structure of the market, the higher highs, higher lows, the lower low, lower high. Okay. And once you understand it and start to see it, we're going to combine it with the trend lines. Okay. We want to make this a continuation of yesterday, also adding in the structure. This is the market DNA. This is going to be a good call. Trust me when I tell you. All right. So, um, let's go ahead and get a blank screen real quick. Blank screen. And we're going to start right over here. All right. Now, I'm looking at it on YouTube right now. I know yesterday you were telling me, Angie, that I think it was the color of the screen that was kind of, let's see, it was kind of hard to see the candles. Okay. I guess based on the video, but let's see if we can. Yeah, that's going to be bad. That's going to be horrible. But yes, let's go back to that gradient color so we can see the candles a little better. All right. How is that? Can you see the candles like that? Or should I just go back to just a black screen? I'm not going to waste it. Let me just go back to my black screen. Yeah. Just going to go back to my black screen real quick. And I'll just zoom in so you can see it once we get to this part. Okay. Once we get to this part. Okay. So now, first thing that we want to talk about is creating the higher highs and an uptrend. Okay. This is the market DNA. So the market is rising up. Okay. The market rides up, it makes a high. So what I want you to write on your screen, on your chart, on your paper is HH for higher high. Okay. This is going to be your higher high right here. Okay. And I'll make that a little bigger for you. All right. Just in case it's hard to see it. I know some of you are either at work on your phones. Okay. And next, we're going to have that pullback. Okay. Once we get that pullback, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be our higher low. Okay. So we're going to put HL for higher low. And what the market is doing, it's still higher than the previous point, which is here. So this is why we call it a higher low. All right. The next thing the market wants to do is continue going higher. We know that this is our break of structure. Okay. We have a beautiful break of structure here, higher high, higher low. Once that market breaks structure, it creates a new higher high. And we're just going to repeat these steps over and over, and then they pull back right around this area. As long as the market does not close below the previous structure, this is considered a higher low. Okay. As long as it does not close below the previous structure, it's considered higher low. We are now building the DNA of an uptrend. Okay. This is the DNA. This is what qualifies the market for the trend. Okay. Very important. Okay. This is what qualifies the market for the trend. Okay. I see some people are late to the call, so maybe the thing disappeared again. Now, for those who are reaching out to you who are late, if you can message them personally, just let them know, hey, here's the link right here. Then that could help. Okay. Until I figure out why this link just keeps disappearing. Okay. All right. Good stuff. So now we have the higher low right in this area. All right. So next thing we're going to do is this. Actually, you know what? You know what, ladies and gentlemen? Just drop the link. This is the basic that I'm going over with. So just drop the link inside of the that group chat right there. So we're not confusing anyone. All right. So now we have the higher low. Again, we're gonna keep doing this until we reach the point where the market wants to reverse. There it is. Higher high, right in this area. Okay. If the market does not close below that zone, this becomes a higher low. All right, good stuff. So now we know the DNA of an uptrend. If we were to use our trend line, and we would have to remember on yesterday's call, we spoke about the starting point of the market. Okay. We spoke about you need 2 points of contact to draw your trend lines. All right. So this would be contact number one, and this would be contact number two. All right. So now to really bring it together and understand, all we're doing is connecting one higher low to the next higher low. Okay. So if the market came down, here's higher low number one, higher low number two. Okay. And that's all we're doing right here is just connecting higher lows, just like that. All right. So if you see the market have a higher low and created a new high, higher low, creating a new high, you're just going to connect those together. Okay. Perfect. Now, we see that we have an uptrend. But what happens when the market is ready to reverse? When the uptrend is no longer, the market is no longer moving up. So what happened? They're going to give you a signal to let you know, hey, we're no longer moving higher. And that signal usually looks like in the form of the market tries to push up higher, but fail to go higher. They're either going to do they're going to do three types of moves to let you know that the market is going to reverse. Okay. There's three types of moves to let you know that the market is going to reverse. Okay. The first move that the market is going to make is called a double top. Okay. A double top where the same high. Okay. The higher high right here, this is the highest point. The market does not break that high right there. Okay. And after they make that double top, then they're going to shift and close below the most recent higher low. This is when you know that the market is in that reversal stage. Okay. That's the first move to letting you know that, hey, all right, first reversal setup. This is my first reversal setup. It's going to come in the form of a double top. Okay. And I'll just put it here also so you can see that. Double top. Perfect. I'll just put them over here. Make sure everybody can see that. All right. Are we good so far on that? All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. So now, what do we have? Now we know when the market is about to reverse. Like I said, they're going to make three moves to let you know that we are about to reverse. So the first move is going to be the double top. And let's move this over to the right. And I'm just going to go ahead and do this real quick. High, low, high, low, high, low, and then high, and then change of direction, just like this. The second move that they're going to make after making a series of highs, okay, this one is actually my favorite move. Okay, this one is actually my favorite move right here because they create the number one reversal pattern. Okay, and there we go, higher high, and then we have the last final high right here. And the reason why I said this one is my favorite because this is called the extended form M. All right. It's the letter M. I'll just move this out the way. Okay. But it's an extension, meaning that that market made one last attempt to rise higher before creating that massive drop down. Okay. This one we start to see a lot. All right. This one shows up a lot in your trading platforms. Okay. Put that there. And I'll just change this down here just to make it nice and clear for you. Okay. Perfect. All right. So now you have your trend line as the market is rising up. And right in this area here, when the market violates and close below that previous higher low right there. When they close below that previous higher low, now you know we have a reversal. But this formation right here is called the extended um, the extended M formation. This is when that market makes one last attempt to rise higher. Okay. One last attempt to rise higher before giving you that change of direction. Okay. That extended form M. All right. That's the second reversal. Okay. This is going to be my second reversal setup. We're talking about the market's DNA today. All right. If you're just joining in on a call, we're talking about the market's DNA. Now, with the extended form M, the reason why I like this setup the most is because it creates the head and shoulder pattern. Okay. It creates the head and shoulder pattern. And that's why I love it the most. The number one reversal pattern in the marketplace. And the last and final setup that we have, um, the last and final setup that we have is called the short form M setup, where the market rise up, pulls back, rise up higher, pulls back. You see, they're making their uptrend. Okay, this is the DNA: higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. The market makes one last attempt to rise higher, but they fail to even give us a double top or extend. Now, we see this one on a bearish reversal a lot. Okay. So when you look at the bearish reversal blueprint, this setup here happens mainly because the buyers came and they hit this zone right here. Okay. This would have been our buyer zone. And we saw that the buyers came and hit this level, rejected, but failed to go higher. So that's why the short form M is also another reversal setup when it comes to looking for these reversals. So you have your higher low, your higher high, higher high, and finally the market makes its higher peak. And this is your higher low with another higher low in this area that eventually was taken out. Okay. This is your market structure, market DNA on building the uptrend. And as you can see, the market goes in this uptrend. Okay. We drew out our trend line. Everything is the same. And with this area, again, with the short form, we know that the buyers are coming in this zone. The buyers, they do reject off this level, but they fail to go higher. So I'm just going to put a note right here. Okay. So you can know the difference. Buyers fail to go, fail to create a double top slash higher high. Okay. It's very important that we write this stuff down, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. I know it sounds like it's the basics of trading, but this right here is pretty powerful because you see this every single day. And knowing the market's DNA would truly help you understand why that market is doing that. Oh, now I understand. That's the same exact pattern I see on a daily basis. Okay. So this is called your short form. Okay. Short M formation. Okay. This is your last and final setup when the market is reversing. All right. Does everyone has it? Does it make sense? Okay. Let's go ahead and drop that 218 in the chat box if it makes sense. Drop that 218 in the chat box if it makes sense. Okay. Good job. Good job. Perfect. That's what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Makes sense. Good job. Good job. Perfect. All right. All right. So now, everyone, make sure you're taking notes with this right here. Get your screenshots so you can go back and study. Because now what I'm going to do is instead of drawing this over, I'm just going to flip the charts over, and now it's going to turn into your reversals for your buy opportunities. Okay. So if I was looking at this for as the market was shifting, okay, you said not a lower low. Yes. So let me just clean this up. All right. Perfect. 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 Just change lower low to lower high. Yes. 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 That's right. That's right. Okay. So let's go ahead and clean this off. We want to make this nice and clean for you. Okay. So now the market is in a downtrend. Drop, pull back. And I'll speed it up this time. Okay. I just wanted to build that up right now. So we got the drop, pull back, drop lower, lower low. Okay. You guys see that? Lower low, lower high, lower low. Okay. So now right over here, we have lower low, lower high. And this repeats over and over and over until the market tells us, hey, look, we're going to be doing something different. Okay. So now what do we have? We have a lower low, lower high. This is my starting point. My lower high is my starting point that broke structure, creating a lower low. My lower high is the starting point that broke structure, creating the lower low, just like that. Okay. So the lower high is my starting point. All right. So now here we go. How do we determine the reversal point? When is the market going to reverse? Okay. So we spoke about the M formations. All right. The short form M, the extended M, and also the double top. But when it comes to the reversals, notice the market starts to pull up just like this. And now we get the change of direction. Okay. Once we get that change of direction, we have a higher high that's being created. The market is moving higher. Once we get that higher high, the market closed above this level right here. Again, this is one of my favorite moves because this right here is called the extended. Okay. This move here, we call it the extended W formation. Okay. This is my extended W formation. This was the last low right here. The market was in a downtrend, just like this. Okay. Was in a downtrend, making lower lows. This was the last low before the market shift. And you're going to see almost every setup that you enter when it comes to a reversal. This is the type of play that you're going to see. Think about if you were looking for a buy opportunity and you saw in that buy opportunity, you saw the buyers, pushing the market up higher, just like this. These are the buyers pushing the market up higher. And here we are right here, beautiful buyers pushing the market up. And this might be your higher time frame structure. Higher time frame structure right here. In this zone, what are we doing? We know that the buyers are coming back to this level. All right? Buyers are coming back to this level. Now, here's what happens. As we see that on a smaller time frame, or maybe the higher time frame giving us enough of this movement, we have the low, lower high, the low, lower high, lower low. Here we go, right here, ladies and gentlemen. This is the key point right here. That last lower low, right in this zone right here. Okay, that last lower low, right in this level, is the game changer. Because remember, when we're looking for reversals, what do we always say when we want this market to come to the zone? Drop a vertical line on the first candle that touches the buyer zone. You guys remember that, right? We drop a vertical line on the first candle that touched that zone. So if we're dropping a vertical line on that level and we look left of the vertical line, when we look left of the vertical line, what do we see? We see lower lows, lower highs. We see the DNA of structure, lower lows, lower highs. We see the DNA cooking up, lower lows, lower highs. So now, after we see that, oh man, here it comes. This is when that market takes off. Now, it doesn't matter what time frame you're on. Structure is structure. Okay. This could be the 4-hour time frame, and we're still looking for after that last low, and then a lower low has been created, and then a change of direction has been created right around this area. Now we know we got a setup. Now we're waiting for that market to do one or two things: either retest this area or possibly come back down to the zone and start reversing, making what? Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Okay. Over and over and over. That's your reversal setup. Okay. Perfect. Okay. That's what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. This is your reversal formation. This is your extended W. I'm going to bring the chart down just a little bit. This time I'm going to make it cleaner. As the market drops down, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Okay. All right. Oh, the market pulls back. Oh, I see what they're doing. They pull back, but guess what? They fail to break above the high. Okay. So, right in this area, we have our lower low. Okay. Got our lower low, lower high. Okay. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. Practice. Practice makes consistency. Lower low. My favorite part now. Okay. So they got these lows. They're breaking structure. Every lower high push the market lower. Good job. Every lower high push the market lower, creating a lower low. All right. Because we don't know. We don't know when the market is going to reverse. Okay. We don't know. Okay. We don't know. So we got to wait. The market pushes up to the level. Now we know for sure once the market breaks this area right here, we know that sellers are sitting here. We already know that from the blueprint. Okay. We already know that from the blueprint that sellers are sitting in this area. So this is the reason why that market comes back and they give us that push back down to the level. But here it comes. They fail to break the low, creating a double bottom this time. They don't make a lower low. They don't make a short form. This time they do what? Boom. Now we have the double bottom that pushes the market higher. We got to change of direction. This is where we see the double bottom formation. Okay. Perfect. Right around this area. The market failed to make lows. This is a sign that's going to tell us, hey, we possibly got a reversal happening right now. So now be careful in this area because, you know, in this area, we have the lower high over here. And this area is also a breaker structure. So now this is where it becomes confusing to most people. Oh, is this a breaker structure? Is this a breaker structure? This is a lower high still. Okay. This is still a lower high. Sometimes it's ignored because it's just noise. The market didn't go higher and it didn't go lower. Okay. So now when they finally break above the high, guess what I'm focusing on? I'm still focusing on that previous lower low over here because we're still getting that setup of the head and shoulder, the inverted head and shoulder pattern. So now, even with that double bottom, I'm waiting for that market to come back, whether it's here or here, to continue doing what? We got a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. It doesn't matter. It's the same exact setup over and over and over. Listening to the market, letting you know when are we changing directions is very important, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Now you're just learning the DNA right now. Okay. Learning the DNA. And eventually, what's going to happen after you understand the DNA, okay, even in this area, this could have been a zone where you said, okay, I know that the buyers are coming in around this area. I want to see the buyers come in around this zone, and I'm looking for a buy. Okay. We know this is my left shoulder. This is my head. Change the direction, made a higher high, closing above the lower high. Once that market comes, I'm thinking buys. Well, even in this area here, okay, even in this zone, let's move this out the way for a second because what we're looking at the overall setup. But even in here, we would have noticed as that market was coming back down, what was it doing? Okay, making a low right here, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, boom, right into that zone. And then change of direction. We don't have to just enter everything. Oh man, I got to jump in right now. We don't have to do that. Okay. The same exact thing. Let the market tell you the same story over and over and over. This is the market DNA. Okay. This is the father right here. This is Big Daddy right here. And these are the kids. The smaller time frame must do the same thing as the higher time frame. That is the DNA. Does that make sense? Go ahead and drop that 231 in the chat box. Does that make sense? Okay. Perfect. So we're doing the same thing. So now what happens? Right in this area, on that smaller time frame, we have the lower high. Change of direction. Whether the market gives us another double bottom here and change of direction, well, it's the same exact thing. We're just, hey, here it comes. Change of direction, retest, and let it fly. The market made a higher high. This is just the smaller movements inside of this pullback. Now we have the starting point. What do we have now? A higher high. This right here is a higher low. Okay. Once they take off, this becomes a higher low. Okay. Once they take off, this becomes a higher low. This is just internal structure. Okay. Internal structure right here that's helping us understand, okay, we got a reversal. Okay. Wow. I love the structure of this blueprint, ladies and gentlemen. You know, yesterday we spoke about the trend, understanding the trend. Today, it's the DNA of the market, the higher highs, higher lows. And with this DNA, it's something that we use on a daily basis unconsciously when we're entering these trades. We're entering these trades not even realizing that, you know, when we're using the blueprint over here, inside of the blueprints, what do we have? The DNA. Okay. We have a low right here, higher low, lower low. Okay. This right here would be that short form W right in the zone that pushes the market higher. Okay. So this right here would be my double bottom. And I'll just go up one more. Okay. So now, just like we saw before, the market drops down, pull back, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. All right. Now, just like in the blueprint we just saw, all of this, all right, this could have been a continuation. First thing that we had over here was the market rising up, pulling back, rising higher, okay, rising higher, and then changing direction right around this area. Now, check this out. Everything that you're already learning, all right, I'll just start it off like this. Everything that you're already learning, we're just piecing it together. High, low, higher high, low. Okay. Maybe the market made an extended. No, we'll just do it right here. And then they change direction. Now we'll do the extended part. And then they change direction right there. Change direction. Okay. So now we know that the buyers were supposed to come in this area right here. All right. Where my buyers at? They're supposed to come in right in that area. The next thing, we see that the sellers are now taking over. Sellers come in and they push the market lower, lower low. Now we get that gap in the market. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Perfect. So I'm just going to turn this red or orange so it stands out. These are my sellers. Okay. The buyers were once in the market. We had an uptrend. Okay. We had an uptrend. The buyers were in the market. And now we have a downtrend because the sellers are now in the market. Okay. The sellers are now in the market. We are making lower lows. Okay. Lower highs. Okay. Lower lows, lower highs. Lower lows, lower highs. Okay. Perfect. Now, the buyers, they come back and they said, you know what? I'm going to push this market higher. They break the trend line, pushing the market higher, creating a higher high. Now we have a higher high. The buyers are now in control. We have a higher high. We're saying to ourselves, okay, this market, if the buyers are truly in control, we cannot make a lower low. We cannot come down this low and break this structure. If the sellers push the market below this level, all right, then what we're looking for is invalid. The sellers are still in control. So now, lower low, lower high, lower low, change of direction. Oh, okay. So now this market only came down about 50% of the move, creating a short form W. Okay. A short form W looks like this. Okay. This is a short form W. It was a W has a double bottom, or it could have been the extended. But this market did what, ladies and gentlemen? The same exact thing. Lower low, lower low, lower high. And once they broke structure, they created the higher high, and now they were able to take off. Higher high, the buyers are now in control. Lower low, lower high. Lower low, change of direction. Now you're starting to understand the trend again. Change of direction. Higher high. Boom. Inside of the higher highs on a smaller time frame, lower low, lower low, oops, lower high, lower low, and lower low. I'll change the color so you can see the difference. Boom. It's my lower lows, And these are my lower highs. Lower highs. Okay. And a reversal. And this one right here, higher low. Okay. Higher low. Over here, smaller time frame, it is a lower low, but it's also a higher low because it did not break this area here. Does that make sense? Okay. So now what we're witnessing is change of direction, enter into the market. Change of direction. Now we're waiting for our setup. Okay. Waiting for our setup. Let's go over to the live chart. All right. Everyone got this? Okay. Short form W. Double bottom. All right. What's your question, Heather? Internal is lower low and extended is higher low. Internal is lower low and extended is higher low. Well, remember, internal structure is just smaller time frame. It's inside of the major push. All right. For example, Heather, this is what that this is what I mean by this. Okay. The major push is this. That's major. All right. That's that large buy candle, just like this, right? So we'll paint this green because I don't want anyone to be confused by internal and external structure. So is that a large candle right here? And we'll just put a small bearish candle right there. So this is a bullish engulfing setup. That's a good question, by the way. So this is a bearish engulfing setup. Got a major push. Now, Heather, let's say you're currently on the 4-hour time frame. Currently on a 4-hour time frame. And what you notice, I'm just going to put this here, 4-hour time frame. Okay. Here we are, 4-hour time frame. As you notice here, we had a break of structure. Okay. BOS. Break of structure. Okay. Now, just in these two candles right here, this area before the break of structure at one point was a higher high. Okay. At one point before that break of structure, it was a higher high. This area could have been a lower low right here. Here's a high, here's a low. And if this wick went lower, okay, if that wick went lower, and you're just looking at the candles right now, if that wick went lower, it's going to show that this is a lower low. Okay, we got a high, low, lower low. And now this turns into what? A higher high. We're on a 4-hour time frame. But what happens when we start looking inside of this candle? All right. What happens when we start looking inside of this candle right here on a smaller time frame? This is the reason why every time frame is going to have its own setup. So now we're going to look at the DNA inside of this candle. We're going to drop lower, looking at the DNA inside of this candle. So we know that we want to see the market come back to around this area for a possible buy opportunity. Okay. There's a lot of activity inside of this candle. So inside of that candle, what are we going to see? We already know external structure is showing us higher highs. Okay. But inside of this candle, here is the high of the candle. Here is the low of the candle. Inside of this candle, we're not going to see higher highs inside. In order to see a higher high, the market needs to do what? Close above. Okay? It needs to close above this level. So now we have the market pulling back. We have a low, higher low, lower low, higher low, lower low, higher low, lower low, higher low, lower low. Now, this is internal structure right here, because a true lower low needs to do what? Close below. Okay? But it's just too much to try to remember and say things like internal lower low slash lower high. Okay? We could say something like internal lower low and lower high, internal higher high, higher low, stuff like that. But of course, it just sounds good. So now we know we have a lower low right here. Higher low. Oh, am I not typing? There we go. Higher low. No, lower high. Okay. Remember, we're still trapped inside of this candle. We're still trapped inside of this candle. Lower low, lower high. This is all internal. Lower low, lower high, lower low. And we want to keep following this until we reach the area. Okay. We call this the point of interest. Okay. This is the point of interest. Where am I most interested in the market reversing? Where am I most interested in the market reversing? Okay. This area is also known as our starting point. It's also known as a demand zone. It's also known as an order block. Okay. These are the areas of interest that I'm most excited about. So I'm going to allow the market to do what it has to do. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. I'm not worried about any of this because none of this area am I interested in. I'm just going to watch it. And you have to be okay with just watching that area and don't get excited and think, oh, let me enter the trade just because the market is dropping. Okay. So now here we are, whether the market comes down to the top, the 50%, or the bottom. What we want to see, we can't do anything, ladies and gentlemen, until the market, the internal structure, stop making lower lows. Okay? We can't do anything. We can't look for buys until internal structure stop making lower lows. So once they do this, lower low, lower low, lower high. I mean, the higher high. Once they give us that higher high, after reaching our point of interest, this is where the excitement level comes in. Number one, okay? We're still internal structure right now. This is still internal structure. Why? Because this candle right here is also known as my trapping candle. Okay. This is known as my trapping candle. This candle is trapping both the bearish candle on the left-hand side, and it's also trapping all of the candles inside. This is why it's called internal structure. Oh man, drop that 2-4 248 in the chat box. Okay. Perfect. Let's go. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yes, this is what's happening on the 4-hour time frame, okay, and on the lower time frame. So once you get that change of direction that's happening right here, once you get that change of direction, market creating a higher high, this could be your test as the market does what? Low, lower high, low, lower high, low, change of direction again. Okay. Eventually, at some point, you got to enter the trade. The market's going to keep doing the same thing. Eventually, you got to do something. You got to get into the trade. Okay. And then once they break structure like that, Heather, this is where you're going to see the market finally break out of that trapping candle and create a higher high. Does that make sense, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. Let's go over to GU real quick. Okay. Let's take a look at GU. Wow. What is happening in the market right now? Did we have news earlier? Wow. Okay. Perfect. Here we are on GU. And remember, let's go ahead and start with structure real quick. Start with structure. Market's in an uptrend, pull back. All right. Now, this is exactly what we're talking about right here. All right. Think about this area right in the zone here, ladies and gentlemen. We know that we click the BOS, break a structure, buyers. Did the buyers do exactly what they're supposed to do right there? Okay. The buyers did exactly what they were supposed to do right in that zone. So I'm just going to put it right there for a second. Okay. So as we can see, I love how this stuff lines up. All right. So if you look at your notes that you just took, okay, we got to break a structure. The buyers are in control. This whole level right here is our impulse move right here. So think of this whole entire move as one single candle. That whole entire move as one single candle right there. This will be that bullish candle right here. Okay. We just finished talking about this one. And all of this would be that smaller bearish candle right in here. Okay. You see how we got that strong rally of buyers that push the market higher. That strong rally of buyers. This is that large bullish candle. Now, okay, this is the high. This is that higher high that we just finished talking about. Okay. That higher high that we just finished talking about. And I'll put it over here. Higher, higher high. Good stuff. Now, notice, isn't this market trapped inside of this zone right here? Okay. The market is trapped. Now, this is called internal structure. Internal structure. Now, internal structure begins. This is where the internal structure begins, ladies and gentlemen. We have a low, high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Boom. Right in that zone right there. Is this our point of interest? Is this where we're looking for the market to do something different? So now we have the lower low. It's going to put a few lower lows here. Lower lows, lower lows, and some lower lows. Okay. This is where we're looking for the market to do something different. Internal structure right there. Okay. We see that when that market start making these lower highs, okay, when they start doing that like this, now you know we're about to get a reversal now. Okay. Well, you don't know that, but now we're making these lower highs. We're breaking structure inside the zone. That's why when you look at the Lux charts, sometimes in this zone, you may not see, it may not identify the structure in here until you drop to a smaller time frame. I'll show you exactly what I mean. Okay, you may not see the red breakout lines or the blue lines on the higher time frame because the higher time frame is showing you the external structure. So when you start dropping to a lower time frame, watch, all of these break a structure will make sense in a second. So let's go ahead and bring this over so you can't see what's happening over there. Okay, perfect. You guys enjoying this call today? I just thought it was important that we really start from the beginning and not just uh, talk about the same thing every single day. Okay, it's very important. We've been there. So now let's go ahead and drop down to a lower time frame once that market got here. So now you can see why you enter this trade. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop down to like let's say we already see structure right there. But let's go ahead and drop down to a smaller time frame. Okay. That's right. And now we went from the 4 hour to a smaller time frame. We needed that rejection. Always wait for your rejection first. Okay. Always wait for your rejection at your point of interest. If you have no idea where you're most interested in the market reversing at, that could be a problem. Okay. You have to know where are you interested in the market reversing. So now I don't care what the market is doing. I'm most interested in this area. As the market comes back to that zone, we get a rejection in that level. Now, as you can see, remember what I was telling you, when you start dropping to the lower time frame, the system will start to identify the internal structure right there. You see that vertical, that line right here? All right. Because now it's going to tell me, hey, we got to break a structure right there. Lower low, lower high. Okay. See, the higher time frame gave it to me right here. Now, on my lower time frame, this is where you can pinpoint and get that sniper gang. Now we got a lower low, lower high right in that area. Okay. Yep, the arrow is going to show it to you. So now let's zoom in. What am I looking for? I see that here we are. I'm just waiting for the market to tell me when to go. Now, I need that. What do we have? Remember, I was showing you market rise up, the market pulls back, the market rise higher. Remember the W when the market is going to tell you, hey, look, I'm tired of dropping. Let's go ahead and change the font, the color on this one so it can stand out. So remember, this right here is a short form W. Okay, it's a short form W. We've already spoke about this, where the market, it's not a double bottom, where the market failed to go lower. That's your short form W right there. This is a beautiful reversal sign. Okay, short form W. Beautiful reversal sign right there. And we get a little break of structure in here. Okay, nice little uh break of structure right there. And then don't forget about this high over here. We got this high also. All right, that beautiful high sitting right in this area right there. Now, once we close above that, I'm looking at this lower low. That lower low, Angie is looking at this and saying, hey, if we close above that, that's going to be my left shoulder right here. All right, that's going to be my left shoulder. Where is it? There we go. It's going to be my left shoulder. And I'm just going to extend this over to the right hand side. And that's where I'm going to be looking for buys. Let me go ahead and get this one out of here. Okay. I'm on a 30-minute. Of course, if we were to drop down lower, we could have, possibly, found a better entry. But I'm not worrying for about a sniper. I'm just making sure that I'm getting in. So now as we look at this, we see that the market got our close above. Okay. We actually got a starting point right here. So when they close above, retest that zone. That's your first entry. Now let's go. Pull that market back, pull that market back, and bam, there's my second entry. Notice how that market just tapped that zone. Ladies and gentlemen, wasn't this right here identical to what we just drew on the training? This right here was identical, knowing when that market come back. I want you to go back and watch this. This was a perfect addition, the perfect starting point to what we are building right here at the Lux Academy, ladies and gentlemen. You know, wow, look at this structure. Look at this amazing structure. I want you guys to go back and watch this over and over and over until it makes sense. Okay. Look how that market just took off. Internal structure. We did not get out of this zone until the market broke the high. So knowing where you are is very important. Okay. Sometimes just because the market is moving internally, you may think, oh, it's we're going up to the roof, but it's still haven't broken external structure yet. External structure is key. Internal structure is, you just hanging around in the neighborhood. But if you really want to see the world, get your passport. Okay. Get your passport, ladies and gentlemen, because that's when market is breaking structure, creating new highs. Internal structure, you going on vacation to Miami. Okay. I'm just going to keep it real. Internal structure, you going to the local beach in Mississippi. All right. You want to go see the world? The market needs to break structure. The market needs to go higher highs. I hope today all of you enjoyed today's session. I hope you enjoyed today's session. It's always an honor and a pleasure to share my knowledge with you. And I look forward every single day that we get on these calls. Okay, 1 second. Every single day that we get on these calls, I look forward to sharing my knowledge with you. Today was blueprint number 2. That's right. Thank you all for tuning in. And if you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next call.